Yeah. Yeah.
Doug, how are you?
That's how
We have until 5:50, 6 o'clock. Someone else is here. So about 5:45 or so. It's time.
Good afternoon. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Roll call, please. McIntyre. Here. DeCook.
Here.
Scholl. Here. I'll turn the time over to Aaron DeCook, Supervisor DeCook, for the item number 1, discussion of referendum for Justice Center with possible action.
We're all here tonight to hopefully come together and reach a solution because time is not on our side. Last week, I think many of you may know I wrote sort of a dissertation outlining 2 options. It was lengthy. I think both options, and basically that's an on-square option as well as an off-square option. I think both of those plans have validity. I think both of those plans have positives and negatives. And so, I wish that the solution was easy. If it was, we wouldn't be here. I wish there was a plan that would make everyone happy and still respect the taxpayers of our county. That plan doesn't exist. There is nothing that we can do. We can choose one or the other, and people are going to be upset. There's no easy solution here. And so what I think we need to do, and what I've spent a great deal of time doing, is outlining sort of those two options and trying to figure out what makes the most sense. Again, I also think that it's very important that the voters have a say, because it's not our money. I suppose we all pay taxes, but it's everyone's money. And so, just to sort of recap, the off-site plan, we'll start there. The initial bond last year, the referendum had specific language in it regarding the location. That wasn't by chance. That was in there purposefully, because a new board was. They already knew a new board was coming. The primary was over after June 5, and so the location's S square. To change the location, voters would have to approve the location change. To increase the amount of a bond, the voters would have to approve that as well, or potentially, if it's beyond a certain margin, we need to approve that as well. So taking into all of the considerations, what I really would like to do is hear from the public and then continue on with our discussion. So I see a lot of people here tonight, and I'm happy to hear from everyone. I'd like to take your concerns and advisement. So maybe that's a little unorthodox, but I'd be willing to do questions. I'd be willing to do public comments. We do have to be somewhat time sensitive regarding. There is a Board of Adjustment meeting that's here at 6 o'clock. This meeting also has possible action, and so I want to make sure that by 5:50 we reserve some time. So with that, I'm more than happy to hear what everyone has to say. I'm going to call on people. Sure. Please state your name and talk loud, and then name, address, and.
Greg Hoyt, H-O-Y-T, just north of Spring Hill on Deer Street, 8541. I've lived in Warren County all my life. We had a vote on a courthouse to be on the square. And I'm real confused as how come we don't do that, and why were the changes made after the bid was made? I would like those two things answered, and who owns the property that's out of town? I'd like to know that too.
So, if you want, I'll address questions. I'm happy to do it. One, there is no change to go off the square. We're discussing that. As you know, the bids came in about $7 million higher than the authority that the board had in the bond referendum. So,
how'd that happen?
Well,
explain that to us.
Sure, I'll explain it as best as I can. Pre-bids were in. There was an estimated range of, I think it was about 29 million or 28.8 to 33.3 on June 8 last year, and what's now the dispatch room. That range was presented to the then board, last year's board. The initial motion came at 33, I don't remember what it was, Crystal, 33.2, 33.4. I didn't make it, but it was the high end of the range, the projected range of what the building was going to cost to go on the square location. That was rejected on a 2-to-1 vote, or actually, it just failed. It failed for a lack of a second. Then another motion was made for 29,999 and potentially some change. That also failed for lack of a second, and the board chose 29.9 to take to the public to put on the language for the referendum. That overwhelmingly passed by about a 69-31% margin. I think that's right, darn close to it. So the anticipated range was 28.9 to 33 something. With some time, with some trade wars, with some tariffs, with the cost of materials going up, bids came in high. The users also spent 36 meetings or something like that, figuring out what would be most functional for their needs. Came back with a design, and then there was a lack of some bids on some of the issues, or some of the bid packages. No one bid. Like, for example, the dirt work. We had a total of 0 bids. I would tell you that when those went to bid, I think it was June of this year, maybe May.
July 9th, wasn't it?
July, maybe?
Wasn't it July 9th?
That's maybe when we got them back. Yeah, we get them back. I think the bids came back on July 9. They went out to bid probably in June to give all of the people, and as a government entity, everything has to be, there's a lot of procedures, as the legal counsel will tell you, as far as making it open to everyone so that everyone has an opportunity to bid. I think that's important, and I agree with that. But getting 0 bids for some of the larger bid packages hurt. Or getting 1 bid for a bid package hurts. Competition is good. They drive the bids down. So when just one person is bidding on, or one company is bidding on a very expensive bid package like masonry work, and it's $1.5 million higher than what was anticipated, that's how we got to 37. So I hope that answers your question. Who owns ground where? I don't know. There is no specific location, as far as I know, of an off-site location.
It doesn't really answer my question, because if the bids rose and the building was gonna be here in town, or if it's gonna be a mile out of town, or 5 miles out of town, it's the same money, only you gotta buy the property to put it on. We already got the property to put it on, so let's build the damn thing, have it over with. Quit fooling around.
Thank you, sir.
Yes,
Joan Daisy out here in Indianola. I just wanted to vote pro downtown. I think downtown survives. It's very hard now, and I think moving it would be the nail in the coffin for downtown.
I agree.
Hello, I'm Brenda Easter, and I'm President and CEO of the Indianola Chamber of Commerce. And originally, when this project was brought to vote, the Chamber actually supported the project. And the reason we supported this project to be placed on the downtown square was threefold. First of all, it was brought to our attention that if they moved the building off the square, there was no vision, there was no plan to rebuild the downtown area. It's critical to the downtown area that we have some transactional activity for those businesses. Second of all, the steps taken to put a law enforcement center on the square was important enough that they got input from a lot of the citizens, they got input from the businesses, and I was happy to be able to sit on some of those meetings to hear people's input. And I think what was really important was that if you place something back on the square, that it was aesthetically pleasing, that it fit with the look and feel of the downtown area, and that would be something we could all be very proud of. What hasn't changed today is that you have 2 options. 1, to put it back on the square, and 2, to take it back off of the square. But the option to take it back off the square still has no vision and still has no plan for the downtown square. Folks, there are communities around the state of Iowa who are trying to create what we have right here in Indianola. The heart of a community like ours is our downtown area. And I think it's important that we keep that in the forefront of what we do going forward. We have to support putting the law enforcement center back on the square because there is no plan, there are no funds, according to Supervisor DeCook, and there's no vision at what could happen to the downtown area. And I can tell you this, since the last meeting and the presentation of the two options, I keep getting calls from businesses that says, do I need to put my business on the market? Do I need to sell? Because with no plan and no vision for the downtown area, it could be the detriment of some of those businesses. And that's something that we should all be concerned about. And I certainly am. So keeping, the progress moving forward is important. Finding the right solution for our community is super important as well. But at this time, I just don't see how the chamber can support anything but other than option one at this time. Thank you.
Okay, I'm on the opposite end. My name's Eric Burrows, I do live here in Enola. Number one, I think we're building jails too small. I think we need to build a bigger jail. I think we need to move to off the square. I'd like to go north of town. The reason I say that is it just seems to me we should do something better with the square. A park, amphitheater, something that would draw people in there, not necessarily just a building that sit there. Looks brand new, and everything around it is old. I would like to see something done different like that. I think we've been as high as 62 inmates. Building an 88-bed jail is not going to suit us for the next 20 years. I think we're shooting ourselves in the foot if we limit ourselves and put it on the square. I think you need to go north of town. If you go north of town, you've got the ample space to build, make that jail bigger, and last us into the future. That's what I think. These businesses on the square, Fenarro's, Wynn is upset about parking. I understand that. Fenarro's, Grant's told me over and again, his business is still doing the same. If people want to go to the square, they go to the square. I just think that you're going to find something better there if you build a park, an amphitheater, something to draw people in. You can have all your functions on the square. At some point, you can change it up. I think we need to build about a 120-bed jail. That's just my personal opinion.
I'm not very good at words and I'm not very good wordsmith, but I took time to look at Aaron's letter. And there's like 4 things in there that popped out to me that might make me kind of lean that Aaron is actually looking at it as what's best for Warren County, not a political decision. So I'm going to read some of these and then I'll go through them. One of them was, so now we are at a crossroads. The lack of necessary funds with current bond referendum to build this justice center on the square location, which both functionally today and into the future. I do not like the fact any more than you do, but I deal with reality. And I deal with reality too in my old job. The next thing he put in here is, I 100% absolutely refuse to use, I changed this 29 to use Warren County citizens' funds to build an insufficient building on the square location. I will not remotely support such a venture, and I refuse to have my name affixed to that short-sighted facility unless otherwise planned. I really would be a 30 million boondoggle. And this other one is in there, but I 100% know in my heart and mind that we are doing the right by the residents today and down the road by accepting the pain today. And the last one here that he mentioned in here says, part of the issue is the lack of a space to grow into as needed down the road. Without it, there'll be absolutely another expansion needed in short order, and functionally, the building is less than optimal. Expounding the town square in Enola is further concerned because it's landlocked, and the building that eventually consumes the square is not desired, because you're going to take up your square that everybody is so concerned about. And then on his thing, he put in here that the shell that he wants to put in here for the 1.2 million, which brings us up to 34 million. The shell is for the basement. And in his article here, He didn't identify what that shell's for, yet to be determined. So my understanding, after talking to the sheriff, and I'm sure the county attorney and everybody else has the same belief, that this building built is based on the fact that we can expand it east or west, which takes way bigger square. And he's put in here the inference that the jail or the county attorney might use some of that underground space. Doesn't commit to using it, just might. And he puts in here that the jail of justice system is adequate with expansion regarding bunks. Well, as of, I think it was 2 years ago, the jail was at 30 prisoners a day. 2 years now, they're at 53 a day. Now, I'm not a big mathematician. Well, one meeting was 53 to 60, but I'll go with the 53. So if we got average of 10 prisoners more a year, and we're at 53, in 4 years we're at 94. We're already over what this can do. So we're not even up to our 20-year money that we're going to spend into this and pay for it, and this is not going to be done right. It just doesn't work out. And then we go into, they said last year, the obstacle wasn't selected last year because Indianola promised obstacles more or less allude to the full-blown plan to kill a possibly obtain a 60-foot percentage. So Indianola wanted it on the square, which I understand the concept. And on this path one, like you said, it's just not going to fit. And then you put in here for the $3 million to make you feel good that at $3 million, if we added $3 million more dollars to add this here, it would cost citizens on your rate $3.85 per month and $924 a year for $20,000. But he didn't put in what it would cost if you started another building away from the square. Well, those figures are, it would cost you $2.31 a month. 462 at 200,000 and 924 at 400,000. So as a citizen, if you're going to have to expand that and ruin that square and not being a contractor, I'm guessing you're going to be at $10 million to do that, just to expand it. And you build a building that has to be 4 sides beautiful to make it downtown. So when you rebuild it, you destroyed 2 sides that you paid the money to make it look beautiful to expand. So if you're adding 10 million down the line, and we'll say in 5 years, 7 years, what's the interest rate going to be then for that 10 million you bought? So that's going to go higher. So now you're going to be sitting at your 34.9, 10 million, that's $44 million. That's going to cost you. In his presentation in here, he says if you went off property, it would cost you $39 to $42 million to do it now, just because of time. Wouldn't you rather do it once that's going to last 15 to 20 years than have to do it twice and expand out? To me, that makes logical sense. So I'm trusting what he's saying, he's truthful about, and I don't want him to make a decision based on politics like the last one was based on politics. For 29.9, what will the voters vote for? That was what the base of that vote was for. And they got you to vote for it, now we're in a boondoggle. And if we do this now, the same thing, we're going to be in another boondoggle. So let's get away from the boondoggle and just make this right. And like I said, we're doing an expansion. I don't care how you cut it. It's going to happen. Time, 5 years, 7 years, you're going to expand on that square and you lost it. And as far as the people in it, and also he put in here that there's no design and it isn't free. If I'm not mistaken, there was a design for off property somewhere. So you don't have to recreate one. All you got to do is pull that up. And I think the board of supervisors already paid for that. So there's already one there. It's just a matter of finding the property and put it to use. And they can actually expand that and make it work later on, if they have to in 15 to 20 years. So you got more use out of it. And as far as the people, he mentions in here, the people in the NOLA down to Times Square would not want to, or the Norwalk and all these other people would not want to help in the NOLA put money into the square. Well, being a positive person, I looked at it this way. Warren County people already put, I don't know how many $1 million knocking the building down. So Warren County's already paid for the big part. So now you have a clean slate and you can make something that's gonna be good for everybody. If you put, or even a stage up there with a bathroom each side, you could do a concert, you could do weddings, you could do dance things, you could do, one night you could have a jazz session and bring people downtown. So you're gonna bring business. And if I'm a guessing person, I'm guessing most of these businesses downtown making the bitch about they're gonna move are restaurants and bars. And the only thing I can say about that, if I made a business plan to put a business here based on the courthouse being there, I did a shitty business plan. So, to me, we have the only option, and I'm hoping he's not doing a political one, to say, let's get this through and start, because it's gonna bite everybody in the ass in about 7 years. And all like, Forrest Gump says, that's all I gotta say about that.
Anyone else?
I guess, I'm Jamie Kruba, I live at 311 East Boston here, you know, and I kind of echo part of the sentiments, I guess. My thoughts are, I'm not for or against leaving it on, moving it off the square. I, as a taxpayer and as just a smart, financially responsible person, I think, we need to do what's right for the taxpayers. So at the very least, I feel we need to take the time to really explore an offsite option and see exactly what those costs are. And if that means potentially giving up, there's a lot of maybes and what ifs and could be's, you know, in both options. But I think it makes sense to look into those options and explore those thoroughly versus just saying, well, we think it was going to be too expensive to move it off, so let's just push through and give us the building on the square. And to that effect, if you do leave it on the square, we've already talked, very limited for any expansion anyway, and whatever expansion we will have to do in the future, we all agree it's going to have to expand in the future, no doubt about that. Whatever we do in the future is going to be a lot more expensive on that square than it will be on a 10-acre tract of land outside of town. So I think, again, I just feel like we owe it to the taxpayers to explore that option thoroughly before we push forward and just keep it on the square for the sake of trying to meet the boondoggle we're in.
I agree with him too. The kicker is, the longer we wait, the more expensive it gets. And we're spending a buttload of money right now farming people out to other counties. That is only getting more expensive. Our population keeps going up. And the longer we wait, we know already that our supplies to build this thing are going up, our building costs are going up. Every year we waited, and this started in 2014, 2019, we said, we haven't got a plan. This is bad.
I'm gonna add another couple cents in there. As I know right now, the sheriff is paying, I'm saying $50 now for other people to jail. And I think you get notice now that it's gonna go up to 60 or thereabouts, so it's gonna almost cost. And one of the answers, and I believe, Aaron, you gave this answer to City Council, is that here's what we could do if we have overabundance of people. Well, we can site them out, or we can find another place to put them, which kind of means defeat the purpose. I'm gonna build a jail, we're gonna put them somewhere else, but you're doing it $60 a month. And if you site them out, bad thing about that, now you've created more work for the judges and more work for the sheriff and more work for everybody else, because part of those people are gonna show, and then you have warrants, and you got arrested, and then it's a triangle that you're creating that I don't think that's a viable answer, citing them out just because they're non-violent or whatever. I don't buy into that.
I Supervisor DeCook, the quick question that I have for you is, you mentioned that this option 2 would be at least 37 million to 40 million, but I realize those are estimates, but the truth of the matter, that doesn't include any acquisition of land, is that correct?
I mean, it depends on what you're building, how you're building, where you're building. There's too many variables. I mean, so I would project it's going to be a number substantially higher, 3 to 5 or more higher. But I want everyone to understand my thought process, because I don't say things or try to stir the pot just for the fun of it. I'm genuine in this, and I mean this, and I think people need to understand this. Part of the reason, I mean, if we could go back in time and do it according to how I would like to do it, we would be at an offsite location. We would have a plan for the square, we would figure out who's paying what, and we would be on a green site. I agree. That's the biggest plus of a green site, is the flexibility that it has for future expansion and the unknowns. Now, you can only plan for the unknowns to a certain degree. I mean, 30 years ago, we didn't have the internet. And so I can't predict in 50 years or 60 years or even 30 years what things are going to be like. So we have to build something that's appropriate now and in the future, beyond the viability of the bond. But beyond that, planning beyond that is just, you're spitballing, guessing, and ultimately someone has to foot the bill, and that's the taxpayers. And so one of my main concerns with the offsite location is the unknown. And I'm going to be brutally honest with the people here tonight. I think some of the people that are very pro offsite in this room are not giving enough, I don't want to call it fear, but exploring the possibility that in the event that that happens, I can't promise that the voters of this county are going to look at a bigger price tag and say yes. And if they say no, we have 6 months, and you get to ask the same question again, except the number goes up because there's inflation. And if the interest rates go up, it becomes more expensive. And if they say no again, you can draw this out. You can draw this out, and that number at 38 or 40 or whatever the number is, I'm comfortable with the number. I am. But what I'm not comfortable with is the unknown. Voters are going to say, I'm not doing it. I mean, if we polled the county and asked, how credible is Warren County run in your eyes on a scale of 1 to 10? Those are going to be abysmal. Those are going to be abysmal. Going back to them and asking for, more with unknowns, that's not going to happen. And I've met with the mayors of the 3 largest towns. I'm happy to meet with others as well. I have to be realistic. I'm not trying to be flippant about it, but if there's not a plan for the square and it's going off the square, let's just think with me. If there's not a plan for the square or who pays for what happens on the square, how eager is Indianola voters going to be to pay for their own square project with their own city bond? We might not get a whole lot of Indianola voters to say, I'm in for $40 million, let's build the facility that might be better for us somewhere else. And if they don't, the cost goes up. We're going to be on the wrong side of the interest rates at some point. I mean, theoretically, they could go lower. They could also go higher, and you can add millions of dollars to the project. So, and then you take the flip side of it. Mayor Drew from Carlisle's here. Mayor Tom from Norwalk was unable to make it. He was in Des Moines. I asked those gentlemen, how eager are your constituents to add $1 million or $1.5 million to build the amphitheater park, to build whatever green space Indianola desires, but to up the cost of the bond so that we can build a park for Indianola? Do you know what they said? Take a guess. They weren't real eager to pay for a park for Indianola. Just like Indianola would not be real eager, I don't see Kelly here, to pay for a park for Norwalk or Lacona or Milo. They're not doing that. They're not in that business, and they have to go back to their own constituents and explain it. So my point is, unless we have a plan for the square, agreed upon by people, which we do not, who pays for it, and if you force it on everyone south of 92 or Carlisle and Norwalk to pay for a square plan, are we going to hit 60%? We're going to ask for more money. And are we going to hit 60%? And then when we don't, are the interest rates going to be low? Is the building going to be $2 or $3 million every year that we consistently not build this thing? I mean, those are real legitimate concerns that I don't think everyone's fully explored about. I think you have to. Gotta admit it.
Okay, so my question is, you're saying that no one fears it. Well, you just put another fear too. You're gonna ask for 3 whatever million, whatever difference, or 1 point, I don't know what it, millions for the people to vote on. You don't have a fear they're gonna turn that down and have to do that twice? Same fear, don't make a difference, the same fear. So you have the same fear that now we're gonna add on to this, and we know we're gonna add on to the square. You don't think the citizens are gonna be happy when you come back and want $10 million to add that on and destroy their square? I'm thinking that should be a fear. And also, as far as the downtown square, to me, the positive side of this is in NOLA, your city council members, go to your people and say, hey, we have a clear slot down here. What would everybody like to be on this square? And then come back and then say, this is one thought, an amphitheater, this, we could have a park, we could do all this stuff. Be positive about it, don't throw negatives. Oh, no one will want it, they don't want to pay for it. Warren County has already paid, I don't know how many $1 million, the citizens to knock down the building. So Warren County's already into that square already for money, however you cut it. And if I'm not mistaken, doesn't the county own that property?
They do.
Okay.
They do.
Here's just the top of my head. Why don't we go to Indianola and say, we'll make you a deal. You give us 8 acres outside somewhere that you own, and we'll give you the property downtown. Perfect location. Let's switch it around. Done deal. We're on our way.
Steve Richardson, Indianola. Nice thought, I appreciate that comment. Problem is, City of Indianola doesn't own 8 acres in the community, and we have to purchase that property as well. I'm not with the city or anything, but I just know that they would have to purchase that property as well. And the people that I've talked with, and I travel too much now to have a lot of contact with folks in town, but a lot of the people that I've talked with, people in my circle, voted for the plan in the original reason because it was on the square. And that was one of the reasons that folks kind of held their nose and said yes and went ahead with the plan. The other thing that I think that we kind of tend to forget is that we talk about expansion. And I know that in part of the plans and part of the discussions that you folks have had, that the question came up about being able to put a second or third story onto that facility. We often think of expansion in a horizontal fashion rather than vertical, and I think you really have to take that into consideration. Nothing wrong says you can't have a 6-story building. I understand the cost right now would be prohibitive for that, but there's nothing wrong with saying you can't go vertical instead of horizontal with that particular facility. There's a lot of courthouses in the county and the state of Iowa and around the Midwest that are vertical instead of horizontal. The other thing I think you got to keep in mind, a couple of other factors. First of all, if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, the courthouse has to be within the city limits of the city of Indianola, is that correct?
Just the clerk of court.
The clerk of court, okay, thank you. And correct me else if I'm wrong here, did the bond issue say that the courthouse was gonna be built on the square? Is that what
It did.
Okay. And I know it would be terribly inconvenient to build a judicial center and then a police and jail and other things as well. I know that'd be very inefficient, probably wouldn't work either, but I think you're gonna have to have something on the square. I think that's the bottom line. You're gonna have to have some kind of a building, some kind of a county facility on the square. The other thing that I keep thinking about as well, and looking at the design, and I've had a lot of folks comment to me about the design, and again, I've had folks, I'm not criticizing your design at all. But architecturally and meeting some kind of a standard or look or way, it kind of fits in a little bit better with that particular area. Why can't we look at materials that are less expensive? I mean, there's all kinds of things that can be done with precast concrete today. I mean, you can color it, you can make it look like, you can make it look like a brick facility. There are all kinds of things that can be done material-wise that will save money in the long run, in my opinion, for that particular project. I don't know what kind of flooring was decided to be put in that, but what's wrong with polished concrete? Probably the least expensive. Probably as easy as anything to keep clean, and maintenance is almost virtually nil. Long-term operation of that facility would be a lot less with something like polished concrete. But again, look at the materials that are there. I think the one thing you also have to understand too, that right now, part of the cost and perhaps maybe some of the cost increases, and I haven't seen your breakdowns, and I'm speaking off the cuff here without the data knowledge that you may have. But the company that I work for, we deal a lot with steel. And our steel prices have increased significantly since the tariff went into place. And talking with a contractor and also with a code official here this morning, their costs have gone anywhere from 15 to 25% increase in large steel buildings. That's why you're seeing a lot of movement in the country today to go to heavy timber construction and multi-story buildings and having code changes to go along with that. So I just think there's some ways that you can look at. If you just take a breakdown and look at the cost, I'm sure that the construction manager has done that. But ask those tough questions. Ask the tough questions. What would a precast building with very specific designs look like, and what can we make it look like, and can that reduce our costs? And what kind of materials can we use that actually would reduce the cost of our facility? To get it to a point where you still have a manageable number that you can work with, even with the current numbers that you have. I think there's some options there for you. I really do think that. And again, speaking off the cuff, don't have the numbers, don't have those kinds of things, but I just gut feeling says that maybe you can do that.
Thank you.
I just ask a quick question. We talked 37 million is the total bid, but we didn't get numbers on some of the bid packages. Is that 37 include an estimate for the ones we didn't get, or is that what we got? You're talking more than 37.
And that doesn't include the construction manager fees.
I'm Justin Peterson. Either option is going to cost us more money, so you're going to have to go to the taxpayer regardless, it sounds like to me. Just listen, I'm a proponent for the off-site. However, if the sticking position is to be on the square, and pony up the extra money and make it so that the building can be expanded vertically, go ahead and put the infrastructure in for the foundation work that needs to be done. I'm in agreement with this gentleman over here. I don't know his name. I didn't catch it, but you got a clean slate. Commerce lady here. There's no,
Brenda, you're gonna have to.
there's no plan, no vision. Well, hey, that's where we're at. We're at a point now where we have an opportunity to create whatever vision, whatever plan we want. I mean, there's nothing saying that we can't go ahead and line the entire interior of the square with more businesses. Make it a business hub. Make it a commerce hub. Why does it have to be a justice system? Why does it have to center around a justice system? I mean, we can do whatever we want on that square. If the city of Indianola feels like it is detrimental to the businesses of the square, then have the city come and develop a plan to help those businesses. That's what business and commerce is to do. That's their job. That's their position within the community. I don't think that there's any reason why it can't be a win-win for the city of Indianola and the county residents. We can do whatever we can imagine. I mean, really. everything takes time, it takes money, I mean, we all know that. So, if it takes more time and more money to do it right now, I think it would behoove us as a community, regardless of where we live, to do it that way. If it takes us an extra year, if it's costing us more to transmit prisoners, it's costing us more because we're running different businesses or different locations to operate efficiently the best that we can now, that's a small price to pay if you compare it to what it would cost to do it wrong and to rebuild it in a short fashion.
And just so the people here know, that is really the only option. I have a preference, but that is really the only option that I personally refuse to do. And I mean, I've made that clear to Indianola when I presented to their city council. I've made it clear in my comments. I've not deviated from that remotely. That is the only option that I think is the worst option to say. You know, I have little girls. I've got 3 little girls. And in our house, sometimes they act up like everyone else's kids. And they've heard me say, you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. That is what I will not do with the square location because for a variety of reasons, but what I won't do is say, okay, users, courts, sheriff, county attorney, let's build it. We'll use what we have. We won't ask the taxpayers to increase it so that we can build something that's sufficient now and in the future. But we'll build 67,000 square feet or 60. There is no worse option than that. There is no worse option than that. That is literally the worst option because you will be expanding immediately, or the courts will immediately say this is insufficient, or the county attorney will add 1 staff member and he'll say this isn't working for me. So that's really the only thing that I refuse to do. So I sort of agree with you on that. I guess I'd like to maybe hear from the users. I see a couple of them here today. There's been some commentary regarding the jail number of inmates, and so if Brian would be willing, I'd sure like to hear his thoughts on 88 and your thoughts on sort of some plans and generally your thoughts, Brian, if you're willing.
Well, I've said from the very beginning, back when this all started, this wasn't my first choice, it wasn't my second choice, it was a compromise. We had to come to a compromise with the citizens of Indianola, and we got to the square location. We sat through a lot of meetings, developing a functional building that we could function in for at least 10, 15, hopefully 20 years. 88 beds is what we'll open up day 1. Expandable to 120 when you build on to the west. I think there's more options that can happen on the square that would better the county and the city in whole than to put a justice center there. It's going to take up most of that square. But we were tasked to, it's going to be on the square. We developed, we worked through 911, we worked through a building that we can make it function. So, unfortunately, the bids come in way over 29.9.
I started off with it being a sticky point on the square. Why not take the option back to the people? The referendum. Vote this for off-site location, vote this for stay on the square. It gives you best of kind of both worlds, and then you work from there. Have a somewhat of a plan. If it takes longer so that we got to go past this November ballot. I mean, if that's what it takes to have kind of a little bit more finite plan, I won't take it wrong. Finite plan, off-site. Here's what we got to do for the square. Here's what we think the new costs are going to be with today's construction costs. Then what, can you,
I have a-
can
I
you
have
do
a-
that? I don't know if you can do
I
that.
have a comment for that too myself. We voted for it on the square. That was my impression of it at the time. We own property south of town that we shouldn't own for a future maintenance shed. We got a perfect shed over here. I've been in there, ain't that bad a shed. If the doors need to be made bigger, make them bigger. Remodel that, put some tin on it, put some insulation in it, you're good to go. We already own that property. We're paying over $3,000 a month for the judges to hold on one of the board members' property, which I think is illegal. It ought to be if it ain't. We got so many things going on in this county that corrupt me, and I'm hard to corrupt. I just don't understand what's going on. How come you guys sitting up there smiling at me because this building ought to be already started? That's what we voted for. Let's do it. It's gonna cost $3 million more. Let's put it on us. We'll pay for it. Our grandparents paid for the first one, or their great grandparents.
One other question. Is it possible to reword this bond that we just approved, $29.9 million, or whatever's left? And I brought this up before. Is it possible to reword it? And I understand we need an all-in-one justice center. That makes the most sense to me, a combined facility. The courts, I understand, need to be there too. Other counties have built their jail and then added their court on at separate time. Is it possible to take this referendum, this bond, change the wording, make it solely for the jail at this point, and say, and I'm asking, Aaron, I see you shaking your head no, but could you make it spend $25 million to build the jail on a larger scale and then add the courts at a later date, a year or two down the road after we've saved up or we've got some additional funds? I don't know.
Not with the proceeds from the first
Because the
referendum.
jail is costing us a ton of money. The courts, I understand it's not ideal, but it's functional. Right now, we have no jail. It is costing the sheriff a ton of money to farm out. I just wondered if that would be an option.
It's not an option, but I agree with beyond the money on the transportation issue. I don't make light of this. We're running a risk. We're taking on some liability to have our employees driving up to Jasper County and back. The roads get icy, accidents happen. There's a risk with that. And to the other gentleman's point about, I hate being under the gun on time. One, we're sort of under the gun for tonight here too, but it really comes down to getting bids out in the event that we're going to move forward with a square location, funded appropriately in my estimation. To make that happen, what we can't do is rebid a project in May again. I mean, it's insanity to do so. You have to bid in January or early February at the latest, as people are coming off of the holidays, they're looking for work. By the time they hit May or June, their pipeline's relatively full, and that's how you get one bidder for a bid package or 0 bids for a bid package, and the price spikes. And so that's why having referendum language before September 20th for a November vote makes sense to me, so that in the event that people say, okay, there's the plan, and again, I prefaced my earlier comments with there is no plan to make everyone happy. It is impossible, but to make a January bid date with some redesign on the top, adding in some excavation on the bottom, the road down first, shell space, that's the rub, is that if we take an additional amount of time, then do we bid it again next summer? You can't. I mean, you can, but you're going to kick it out a year, which I don't think makes a lot of sense.
I think, Brian did an important point here. I think we all need to remind ourselves too that, some of the best things sometimes are going to compromise. And sometimes they don't, but a lot of times they do, and nobody's going to be happy. I think you mentioned that a couple of times there. Nobody's going to be happy. Things have to be compromised. You have to find a way to make things work with what you have. And I think you're exactly correct that bidding in late spring, early summer is, my experience with that has been that exactly that, your costs go up because of the fact that everybody's busy through the school year, through the summertime in schools, everybody else trying to get their work done so they can start the fall. Late October, November, December, January, maybe into February are good times to do it.
Yes, sir.
Mason Outer. I'm gonna probably make my friend Doug Eichholz and Don here unhappy when I talk, but as I heard, because of the, price tag on the proposal, it appeared that the county attorney's offices would have to be limited, and obviously there was some discussion on, reducing the number of courtrooms themselves or the size. My question is this, there is available space around the square. My personal preference would be to have the courts and the sheriff's department in the same building, but I don't really understand the requirement or the need to have the county attorney's offices, and realizing that they're going to need more room and more room for expansion as time goes on. Why we don't utilize some of the open space around the square, and don't come and buy my building because it won't be good for you. But there are a number of open spaces where the county attorney could be housed at probably a lesser cost and a lesser long-term cost. And I understand they wouldn't have the same security interests or risks that the sheriff's department would, and I understand that needs to be considered in the court, in a combination court, sheriff's department, jail system.
Due to time constraints, I'd like to hear from Supervisor Shaw.
Supervisor Cook, on the square option, what's properly funded? By that, you would mean?
Admittedly, I've been newly appointed to the user group, so I've attended two. We have one set for next Wednesday. But we've spent some time talking about that because we don't have unlimited time. And so I went to the users and I asked them, and the Shive and DCI, to get a number that makes sense. And I earnestly believe that at $34 million, that the building can have shell space in the basement, that the building will not be the exact same building that was bid on before, because the upstairs walls would come in some. The courts mentioned the reorientation of a courtroom or two. There's a pretty grand hallway, and some of it's fire code. That's what, I mean, I think people know I'm from Pella, I'm a Dutchman, I look at things somewhat economically and say, well, do we need this? And I wouldn't do that maybe in my own personal home, but building a government building, there's fire codes and there's people expectations in there, and it needs to be so much space. But I think that it can come down a little bit up top and be shell space available in the basement. And my guess is we can work very diligently. We're at about $35 million currently. I think there's some more to go, but I'm pretty confident we can make $34 million worth. Is that what the taxpayers want to hear? No, it's not. I suppose people were hopeful that 29.9 would get it done, and clearly it isn't going to get it done. I meant what I said in that letter about the refusal. That's really the only thing I'm refusing to do here is I refuse to have it be shrink the beds, shrink the courtrooms, drop off those things, but at 34, we can have the shell space in the basement. It might not be 9,000 square feet down there, but it might be 6,500 or something. We'll have 4 courtrooms upstairs. The county attorney's office will have some shell space in the basement. very importantly, if you heard Mr. Patterson present about a month ago, he was very concerned about one thing and one thing only. His concern was that if he didn't have predefined shell space for the courts to grow into, he's aware, because he's right, that he would come back to the county and we would have to request money from the voters, or if a new board decided we weren't going to do that, and the court needed more space, then he was going to be stuck. So long as the courts have the ability to add 2 more courtrooms down there, and that might be probation, or, probate, or something that doesn't require a humongous courtroom or another jury courtroom. But so long as he has room to grow into, I think 34 checks the boxes, and that's the path that I would propose for a square location.
Okay, now the short answer, is that 3 million more or 4 million?
We had 29.9 from the bond
So let's
proceeds.
call that 30.
It's called 30. It's 4 million more, but on the bond proceeds, the prior board at least had indicated a willingness to use some reserves. So that's a consideration. There's a 1.2, whatever. And then the other thing that when speaking with D.A. Davidson, our fiduciary financial advisor, the reoffering premium that was sort of pitched to us in the summer, and I think that that's pretty unpopular. I'm going to be up front with people. That's not my preference to cram $4 million out of the bond from the people without giving them a shot. I wasn't comfortable with that. But on the other hand, everyone also has to understand the yield curve on a short-term municipal bond. If the rates are very, very low, which is great for borrowing. But because they're so low, if the first $1 million in year 1 is repaid, that interest rate might be less than 1%. Well, there's not a huge appetite for a less than 1% tax-free bond for 1 year when an Ally money market pays 1.8%. The tax equivalent yield is 1.5, FDIC insured at 1.8. There's no reason to take 1% money. And so the short end of that yield curve is going to be reoffering
We have 2 minutes.
time. So I'm going to tell you there's going to be $1 million in organic premium reoffering to get the bonds the securities actually marketed. So there's another potential benefit. So I think 34 is appropriate.
Okay, so I need to rephrase, so is it
3 or 4 million.
3 or 4 million?
Or 3.5.
That's better.
I'm okay with either of those. Either one of those would get a building if that's the direction to go. But I also want people to know if that doesn't happen, then I don't see the point in having redesign expenses. We're going to get functional buildings, so.
Do we have a motion?
I would be glad to make a motion. I would move that we maintain the building on the square, and that we put on the ballot in November, and I think it's November 5th, that we raise an additional $3.5 million, and I would authorize Supervisor Cook to work with Megan Mark Corey to get the language together, so next Tuesday at our regular board meeting, we could vote on what goes on the ballot in November. That would be my motion.
Second.